Hey everybody, this is Tim Williams from Rolling Coffin. You're watching CMS TV.
Does that song, having a song covered by that band, the biggest band, does that pay the bills, somewhat pay the bills, keep the mortgage paid? I mean, what does that do for a band like Sweet Savage?
Chris, it does exactly what you think. I mean, obviously the first paycheck is the biggest and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller because it gets less and less played. But it does everything that you said and everything you imagined. I mean, I would be the first to say, basically the band was in the doldrums. That the new wave of British heavy metal had come and gone. The sort of the 80s had kind of come and gone. The grunge was coming in. Again, I'm not delusional about anything. I didn't understand. I couldn't write grunge. I couldn't do it.
Sure.
The band was oh well, you know what? It was great fun, guys. Let's go get a day job. We had a good run. We had great fun. We had great crack with a million stories. Let's get together, have a curry, and talk, bollocks all the time. And then Metallica bring out that song. You see, the phone rang off the hook will work because you're associated with Metallica, and it's kind of like. And okay, there were smallish festivals, but smallish festivals, Chris, they put bread on the table. And the smallish festivals is basically, well, if you're good enough for Metallica, you're good enough for us.
Chris Akin Presents, and I, of course, am Chris Akin, and today on the show, new wave of British heavy metal band. I love talking to these guys, and I love when they come back stronger than they might even have been in their heyday. This is one of those moments. The band is Sweet Savage. They have a brand new release called Bang, out on September 12th. It is an absolute murderer's row of tracks, and here to talk all about it is the main man himself, Ray Haller. Ray, how are you, man?
Very well, Chris. Nice to see you. Good to speak to you.
Yeah, good to speak to you too, man. And I'm going to tell you straight up, it's good to speak to you on the back of a very strong record, man. What a great listen this is.
Chris, thanks very much for saying so. I have to say, I'm very, 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 very proud of it myself. And the reaction so far has been absolutely superb. So I'm really glad you like it.
Sure. Well, it's great and it's fun. And I'll tell you this, Ray. The thing that I think I like most about this record is how it kind of bounces from style to style a little bit. I mean, it's consistent, but there's songs that just feel a little different than what you've ever done in the past, as well as, even different in the track listing here. It makes it for a fun listen that doesn't get boring, if that makes any sense.
Chris, we set out to do that. I wrote the record with Simon McBride, now I have Deep Purple.
Sure.
Simon and I have done a lot of work together over the years. He's involved in every Sweet Savage record that has ever been. And Simon and I are really, really good friends. And so, in fact, I was with him today. I had the pleasure of Simon's company earlier on. But anyhow, we said we were going to write a record, and we said, look, I tell you what, we got to make it different. There's no point in us trying to reinvent or revisit the new wave of British heavy metal. Technology's moved on, sound has moved on, listeners have moved on. It's a great part of our history, and it's a great part of heavy metal history, the new wave of British heavy metal. But a lot of younger listeners will just basically know the letters. A lot will not even know what new
Sure.
metal is. So we decided, we made a conscious decision to sit down and write a new record, and that's what we did. And the format of that was, we wanted to take old style riffs like we would have done in the past, sort of, your usual typical hard rock, heavy metal riff, and then sprinkle some modern dust over the top of it. And that's, if you break down the songs and you listen to them, they are basically old style heavy metal riffs with a lot of fancy guitar effects. One of the interesting things, Chris, has been that the number of journalists have said to me, you're using synths and using this. There's no synths on it. It's McBride taking guitar effects and guitar pedals to another level. So with the old riffs and the new modern sounds, we've come up with that. The other thing as well too, we did think about, okay, we need to have a couple of tracks that will be somewhat radio friendly, because it'll help us get a little bit of promotion and help us get the name out there and maybe get us into markets where we've never been before. And I think we've done that with a couple of tracks, especially with the second single, The Chosen One. I mean, you know, some of my wife's friends, female friends, say, "Hey, Ray, I really like your new music." You know, it's not like that usual angry music that you play.
Right.
You know, it's kind of good. So I was like, well, you know what? That's nice that, you know, non-metal people are actually saying, "Hey, you know what? It's very hard and it's very noisy, but I like it." And I thought, well, that's a win-win, you know.
Right, definitely. Well, let me ask you, let me pull back to Simon for a minute. Obviously, you know, as you mentioned, he's in Deep Purple. How has that changed the collaborative way that you guys work, if at all? Only because he's in, you know, a much bigger band, which, look, I'm playing devil's advocate here, and you can tell me I'm completely wrong. I don't know Simon, but I would think if he's got a riff and he's got to say, well, where do I put it? He puts it in the bigger project.
Well, Chris, I mean, 100%. You know, I mean, 100%. I mean, Deep Purple is obviously Simon's priority. Deep Purple, sure, mortgage, and is feeding his family. So Deep Purple is his priority, and they will always get first pick on anything he does. But you know, I can't speak highly enough of Simon. Like, if Simon put his mind to it, he could churn out. And when I'm used churn out, that's the wrong word, because that sounds like he's producing a lot of junk and a lot of rubbish. Simon could produce 10 unbelievable riffs a day. I mean, he is a music machine. You want, I mean, I was with him earlier on. I dropped down to the studio where we recorded this record. So I dropped down to see him, just really to sort of catch up. How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. He went in, we had a little fiddle. He was showing me some of his new gear, and I've got this and I've got that, and I'll give you demos and this, and would you hear this and would you hear that? And I mean, Chris, his solo stuff, which he's getting ready to do a new solo record. He's going to do, you know, he's constantly writing, constantly recording, and constantly putting things in his music bank. I mean, if I was to get the Deep Purple cast-offs, I'm a happy boy, because Deep Purple cast-offs are absolutely spectacular.
Right.
So, you know, I'm hoping that I get the opportunity to work with Simon again, because the other thing about Simon, he works so quickly, and I am an absolute, I've technophobia. I'm dope when it comes to technology, but right. Simon McBride makes it so simple, because he is such a quick, fast worker, and it was a pleasure to go into the studio and work with him. I mean, I can't speak highly enough. And the other thing as well too, I mean, Simon, you're sitting talking to Simon, Chris, and it's like, you know, yeah, you get that, you know, because he just automatically assumes that you understand. He's such an unassuming, humble guy. For a guy with so much ability and talent to be so humble, it's incredible. It really is. Like, even today, he's just. I mean, he's doing wonders with Deep Purple.
Sure.
You know, I think that last record that Deep Purple did was incredible. Their best in years, in my humble opinion.
Sure.
And it hasn't changed Simon at all. You know, his kids still yell at him. His kids still shout at him. Kids still want picked up here, driven here, and whatever. All the same crap that we all go through, and Simon's still the same dude.
Right on. And but it is definitely encouraging when we see guys that are on the other side of 30, we'll say, you know, that are still bringing it as maybe even better than they did in their 30s, you know?
I think a lot of musicians, you know, when we mature a bit and calm down, and there's not that sense of urgency. Oh, time's running out. Oh, you know, I'm going to pack it in. I got to take a day job. You know, I can't do this. You know, the fence is falling down. I need a new washing machine. I think when all that anxiety is set to the side, and we all kind of calm down a bit. I mean, I feel this is the best music that I've ever produced. I mean, you know, I've I've had great fun, and working with Vivian Campbell is another treat. So I mean, like, Sweet Savage has had two of the best guitar players Ireland has ever produced, and both world class. But I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that I am a bit older, and I don't have that panic behind me that I need to do. Let's do it. That'll do. Let's make it work. It was calm. I mean, we took a lot of time out to write this record, and we were very calm and collective about it. And I think it shows in the actual record.
This episode of the CMS Network is brought to you by our sponsor, Blackout Coffee. If you are a coffee lover, you will love what they are selling over at Blackout Coffee. Make sure you get yourself some. The only thing woke about this company is the drinker of the coffee, because it gives you quite a jolt. I am a personal fan of the Brutal Awakening Dark Roast, but everybody's a little bit different. Make sure you get what is your favorite today. Go to blackoutcoffee.com. Use the promo code CHRIA20 to save 20% on your first order. It's that simple. So one more time, blackoutcoffee.com. That is the link, or use the full link if you're going to shop around, that is scrolling on the bottom, and get yourself some of the best coffee that is out there today. blackoutcoffee.com. How much did these songs change from when you first kind of envisioned them to when you brought them in and then actually worked them through? Did they change quite a bit or not at all?
Lots, Chris.
Okay.
I wrote some of so I write on the bass. So, and I'm a bass player and I'm very fond of the bass, but the bass can be boring. So I take these riffs and, Simon will fall off his chair maybe only twice laughing at them. And then he'll hit the turbo button. And then these basic riffs that I play on the bass are turned into something mighty spectacular. So yes, in answer to your question, they changed immense. And the other thing as well too, Chris, we had the privilege of doing it in Simon's studio, which meant to say we were not watching the clock and we're not thinking we're running out of money. So we would finish the song and then Simon be off touring even with the Simon McBride band at the time. And then we'd maybe have 2-3 weeks to listen to a couple of things. We'll go, you know what, dude, that doesn't work. No, you know what, I think the same, it doesn't work. Let's go in and change it. So we had that privilege because, we had plenty of time. So in the quick answer to your question is the songs from basic riffs written on an iPhone, basically with the dictaphone in the iPhone, they changed immensely.
Sure. How much did the lyrics change? Because and I'm asking that because I listen to songs like The Chosen One, and I'm thinking that's a well-crafted lyrical song, which makes me think that it probably didn't start out that way. It probably started out with a lot of la 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 la, then you filled it in with stuff that made sense.
Chris, are you sure you don't have a microphone in my? That's exactly the way it went. Yeah, and that la 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 remained la 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 for a very long time.
Right. That's funny. Well, let's talk about one or two of the other tracks, Ray. Let's talk about Live and Die, which is another cool song. What's that one about, though?
I mean, all the songs, Chris, are quite simple. They're basically about life. You could fit that song and that lyric into your life. I fit it into mine. It's just basically about, sometimes you ask your question, why bother?
Good point.
This is all bullshit. And it's not necessarily talking about music. It's talking about anything. It's talking about, why am I getting up on a Saturday morning to go and watch my kids football? It's freezing. It's pissing down my rain. What am I doing? It's just nearly every one of the songs is questions of life. And I don't want to, because I'm certainly no poet. And I laugh and joke about, those lyrics are so good. You think Shakespeare wrote them. I don't take myself too seriously. But I think that, so I don't want to come across really deep and metaphorical. they're just basic observations of life, you know. And if somebody says something to me, like if I'm standing at Saturday watching a football and somebody, somebody just turns around and says, you know, what's it all about? Like, you live, one day you die. And I go, whoa.
Right.
Well, now stick out in the iPhone, that could be a song. You know, I mean, as I'm speaking to you, Chris, I'm sure there's 600 titles of, for the next 60 albums,
Right.
in this phone, because anyone says anything to me and I think, wow, that could be a song, that could be whatever, that could be a lyric, that could be an opening line. I write it into my phone. I just write everything down all the time. And Simon does exactly the same.
Right. Is it difficult to go back then and figure out what you even meant?
No, well, they don't. I mean, it's usually just a header. You know what I mean? It's
okay.
Just something to inspire you to explore. And you see, I mean, you basically hit songwriting on the head. At least my way I write songs. So I'll have a riff, and this is how basic I am. I'll have a riff. I'll have it on my iPhone or else on my dictaphone. One's playing in the car with the connection, and as I'm driving down the road, and the other one I'm singing la 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 la. And then when I go back to my iPhone and I look at all my notes and go, the la 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 goes, Live and Die would fit that. That becomes Live and Die.
Okay.
That's how I do it.
Right on.
All musicians do it that way, but that's the way I do it.
Well, it's funny. I talk to tons of musicians, and every one of you guys has an iPhone that just has hundreds and thousands of ideas. And it's any instrument. It could be a guitar player, a drummer. I've literally had a drummer pull up her phone. It was a female drummer, and she pulled up her phone and just played me her tapping on her phone. Do, 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 do. People just, musicians, I think it's because you guys don't work in a 9-to-5 world. You get an inspiration at 3:30 in the morning. You got to get up and capture it because you don't want to lose it.
100%. I mean, I have the iPhone obviously beside me in bed. I also have a notepad and a pen. And you know what? If I get into bed, Chris, and I go, whoa, I've always had my iPhone because I use it for my alarm and everything else. But if I don't have my notepad, I'll get out of bed and I'll go and get my notepad and come back and set it beside my bed. It's always there because you don't know when you're going to get an idea. And the number of times that I've woke up in the morning and I've been too lazy, maybe because I've had one beer too many, and I can't be bothered my ass, walking downstairs to get my notepad. And then I wake up in the morning and go, what was that idea? Oh man, I can't remember.
Right.
So I don't make that mistake that often.
Right on. Well, Ray, let me ask you one or two that are really not necessarily Sweet Savage, but they're about people at least that you know. I wanted to start with from listening to this record specifically, but also some of the back catalog for you guys, and obviously knowing that Vivian Campbell, has been in the band and works with you and whatnot. I picked up, and this could just be me. Tell me if it is. He uses what he learned in Sweet Savage in Def Leppard. And I'm going to point specifically to the Def Leppard record X, which you could pull some of those songs out and put them on this record with you singing, and it would sound very similar. Just seems like he's taken the influence that, obviously he helped you at the beginning of the band as well. Do you see that? Do you see that he takes that lesson, I guess, and uses it? Or is that just an Ireland thing that's kind of how you guys all create and it flows from project to project, or what?
Well, it's I'm not sitting on the fence here, Chris. It's a bit of both.
Okay.
I mean, first and foremost, Viv is, he's an atomic guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
And, he really got the show is worth with Dio, because Dio was a heavy metal, band.
Sure.
I think in Def Leppard, and I'm a Def Leppard fan. I think with Def Leppard, there's no need for the big atomic player.
True.
So I think when Viv gets the opportunity to show his true roots, he does it. I think even the very fact that he got the last in line together, I think that was a place for him to sort of like say to the world, hey guys, I still got it. You know what I mean? I don't get the opportunity to show it with the Leps, but I still got it. So I think, and what you're saying is 100% correct. You know, you will hear traces of it, but I wouldn't be, you know, I wouldn't be that conceited to say it was anything to do with me or Sweet Savage. I think it's just Viv, you know, the opportunity to show the world, you know what, guys, I mightn't play it, you know, with, you know, Def Leppard, my main band, but I'm still at the heart of it. I'm still a rocker, you know, and I like the opportunity to get out, crank my amps full welt, and blast out some fast guitar playing. I think that's him. I think that's his foundation.
Right on.
Looking for a unique gift or just want to make someone's day? Head over to Cameo, where personal messages from your favorite creators are just a click away. Meet Chris Akin, one of the most captivating content creators on Cameo. Known for his wit, charm, and outlandish behavior at times, Chris is ready to make your special occasion even more memorable. Whether it's for a birthday, an anniversary, or just because, Chris delivers a message that feels like it's coming from a friend, an enemy, or someone in between. His energy, humor, and creativity make each video a one-of-a-kind experience. So don't wait. Visit www.cameo.com/Chris Akin and purchase your Cameo today from one of the best content creators on all of Cameo. Make someone's day special, or maybe even not so special, with a message they'll never forget.
And then one last thing before we wrap it up here, Ray. And I know you get asked this all the time about Killing Time, the Metallica cover. And I don't want a big old story or any of that. I'm just curious, does that song, having a song covered by that band, the biggest band, does that pay the bills, somewhat pay the bills, you know, keep the mortgage paid? I mean, what does that do for a band like Sweet Savage?
Chris, it does exactly what you think. I mean, you know, obviously the first paycheck is the biggest, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller because it gets less and less played. But it does everything that you said and everything you imagined. I mean, I would be the first to say, basically, the band was in the doldrums. You know that the new wave of British heavy metal had come and gone. The sort of the 80s had kind of come and gone. The grunge was coming in. You know, again, I'm not delusional about anything. I didn't understand. I couldn't write grunge. I couldn't do it.
Sure.
The band was like, kind of like, oh, well, you know what? It was great fun, guys. You know, let's go get a day job. We had a good run. You know, we had great fun. We had great crack. We have a million stories. Let's together have a curry and talk, you know, bollocks all the time. And then Metallica bring out that song. You see, the phone rang off the hook will work because you're associated with Metallica. And it's kind of like, and okay, there were smallish festivals, but smallish festivals, Chris, they put bread on the table. And the smallish festivals is basically, well, if you're good enough for Metallica, you're good enough for us. So, you know, I mean, you know, the Metallica boys are just so good to me. And, you know, when they come to town, I always get a call and I always go down and see them and hang out, and it's great. I can never thank them enough, you know, for the very fact that they just took that one song and played. Sure. And over the years of the interviews that they've done, where, you know, where they have mentioned this, and, you know, they've given us great plugs. I can never thank them enough, because it's just as you imagine. You know, whenever Metallica give you an endorsement, it's
sure,
like
it's a gold ticket.
Yeah, it's a gold ticket. Yeah, it's like a small lotto ticket.
Right. Just very last thing, and then we'll wrap it up. You obviously played the 30th anniversary with them.
Yeah.
Like, I have to imagine that is ridiculously nerve-wracking, given the scope of how big they are. How was that experience? And were you nervous, or were you just like, yeah, this is where I belong, or what?
Well, again, bit of both, you know, because I mean, you know, we went down for, I mean, the whole experience. I mean, you know, they've got to let me tell you this story.
Yeah, please.
If you get Nicholas, if you're listening, you got to let me finish this story. You know, I get emails all the time, Chris. You know, you played with Metallica, blah blah blah, Metallica, and you know, and I just look at the emails and it's like, yeah, okay, I'll sort that out later. And you know, I get out of my bed and open my iPad and look, and there's a thing from Metallica. It said Metallica.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't bother, and then I kind of went and looked at it, and it was from it was Q Prime. So I was like, oh, that's Metallica's management. And then I read it about coming. And I thought, Jesus, holy shit, you know. So I phoned Q Prime, you know, and yeah.
Sure.
The guys would like you to come out, blah, blah, blah. They're going to take care of everything. Yo, make your way out here. And it was like, holy shit. So that, but then I told my nephew, and I'm the youngest in the family. My nephew is, you know, he's only about 10 years younger than me. And I said, hey, Stevie, you know, I got this call from Metallica. He goes, I want to go. I said, well, I can't go. I phoned Metallica. Q Prime thought I was talking about a nephew who was about 4-year-old. You know, hey, my nephew wants to go in there, kind of thinking, why do you want to bring a toddler, you know, a little infant along? No, he's an adult. But anyways, we get out to San Francisco and we have a driver. And it's like, and I mean, you got to remember, Chris, I'm a bumpkin from Belfast. You know,
Right.
Like we're in the backwoods of Nowheresville. And I got this driver and, you know, we get over we're going for rehearsals down to the Fillmore West, which again, I don't know how many live albums I have from the Fillmore West. And I'm thinking I'm going to be standing on the stage in Fillmore West where all these legends have been. So I was a kid in a candy store walking into the Fillmore West, and then you walk in and there's the guys from Metallica and they're like, hey, Ray.
Right.
Like, fucking hell, you know, as if I lost buddies, like. And we get up, we all shake hands, we take pictures and blah, 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 and we have a little bit of a jam. And then I do, so I'm getting ready to do the song. And I felt really good. And it's like the song went great. And then all the other people come in. And I'm going to say this because one of my heroes is Sammy Hagar.
Okay, sure.
And Sammy Hagar was standing on the side of the stage. I was myself because of Sammy Hagar. And I'm thinking, I was nearly going to swear there, Chris. I was nearly going to swear. Big swear word, but I won't. And I'm like, oh shit, I have to sing in front of Sammy Hagar.
Nice.
I was crapping myself because I was going to have to sing in front of one of the guys that inspired me to want to sing. You know, I go right back to the Montrose days, even way before the Van Halen days. And that was more nerve-wracking than anything, that Sammy Hagar was standing at the. And when I walked off, and this is one of the best compliments, as much of all the lovely compliments Metallica give me, Sammy Hagar said to me, you've got some set of pipes.
Nice.
So brilliant. And I didn't do my crummy American accent there because I didn't want you to fall about laughing. You know, I'm a kid Sammy Hagar, but that's what he said, you've got some set of pipes.
That's a great story, man. Well, dude, you do have a great set of pipes. I know you know that. And you're showing them off well here on the new release, Bang. It is Sweet Savage, September the 12th. Where's the best place to tell people to go to get it, Ray?
Online, Ear Music.
Okay. So,
and you can get it in all the streaming services. All the streaming services are going to have it, every single one on the planet.
All right, well, those are fine. It's fine if people listen, but go buy something. Support the band, please.
Please
buy something. Nice. Well, one more time, it is Bang. Sweet Savage is the band. And Ray, this has been fun. Thanks for joining me here on Chris Akin Presents.
It's been fun for me too. Thanks a million.